Wes Matthews came in at the $3.6 million biannual exception. Montrezl Harrell was at the $9.3 million mid-level, so they had those two exceptions there. Schroeder was in a trade, of course, and then Mark came in at the veteran minimum exception, which is at $2.6 million. So that's the beauty of when you have a championship team, that veterans are willing to kind of sacrifice financially to come try to win a championship here. And I liked all the moves. I'm not as sold on Gasol as a lot of people. I just looked at him last year. Mm-hmm. I didn't think he had much gas left in the tank, especially in the playoffs here. So we'll see when we get going here if we see a little bit of a different Marc Gasol. But yeah, and then you bring Markieff Morris back, of course, on the veteran minimum exception today too. So they basically
LeBron does this in every town he's in. He did this in Cleveland. He did it in Miami. He gets all the good players who used to be really good and still have something left to take virtually no money to win a championship.
Five guys, I think, will cost you like $20 million this year, right? I mean, that's amazing, and that's the beauty of you have LeBron or ED, and guys want to go, try to win a championship.
Got to tip my hat to two people, Bobby. One. Rob Pelinka, who I was very skeptical about, but he's pushed all the right buttons and he's made it all work. He's done an excellent job. And it's great being wrong about stuff. You learn something,
Makes you better, doesn't it? It makes
I love
you better.
it. Yeah, it does. It does. No, I was wrong about Pelinka. I thought, oh, come on, what's he doing? He knew better than I did. That's one. And two, Jeannie Buss. Jeannie Buss inherits the franchise from her father, who's by so much the greatest owner in the history of American team sports. It's embarrassing. He's lapping the field a couple times. And his dying wish, essentially, is I want this team, this family business, to keep my family together. And he therefore puts Jeannie in charge of business and Jim in charge of basketball. And Jeannie wanted to respect his wishes, stayed with Jim probably a year longer than she should have, did everything she could to try to make it work. When she finally saw, look, I have responsibility to L.A. and the Lakers to do this right, and she lets go of Jim essentially in that role. Since that moment, in other words, when the handcuffs came off Jeannie Buss, and talk about handcuffs to have on you, you're being a good daughter and family member, right, to your late great father. But as soon as she took the handcuffs off, 3 years later, they're working on a repeat, Bobby. Like, oh my God, what a stewardship the Lakers are still under Jeannie Buss. What do you make of how Michael Jordan and the Charlotte Hornets are building their team? As I've often mentioned, the irony of Jordan is he is the Michael Jordan of bad owners. But what do you think about what he's done so far this offseason?
I'm not a big fan of the Gordon Hayward signing. I really am not. I mean, I'm not comfortable committing $120 million for him. Maybe I would be comfortable in 1 year at a pretty good number, but I just get concerned on that back end of that contract, years 2, 3, and 4, and I just think it's an overpay, and they're paying for what the Gordon Hayward of the past, and maybe not even the Boston past, maybe more of the Charlotte past. I mean, the Utah past, where he was really good. And I get it. I know, and I've been in rebuilds, and you get to a point, Max, where you just want to wave the white flag and do something as an overpay and go from a 30-win team to a 40-win team and compete for an 8 seed here. And I think that's kind of where Charlotte is doing that. It's kind of it's not a Mitch Kupchak type move, because Mitch has been up front and basically said, hey, we're not going to spend our cap space. We're going to focus on Devontae Graham and P.J. Washington, Miles Bridges, guys like that. We're going to draft and just kind of build it.
LaMelo Ball.
LaMelo, we're going to build it organically, and then all of a sudden you come in with 4 for $120 for Gordon Hayward.
You know what I think it is, Bobby? I think it is, first of all, I agree. This is the kind of move the Knicks would normally make, hilariously make. Michael Jordan now makes the Knicks not the worst run franchise. Well, they have a worse owner than Jordan, but at least they have more competent people in their front office now. I'm less of a fan of Mitch Kupchak now than I used to be, based on the last, let's say, 10 or 12 years. But it's like the Catfish Hunter signing for the Yankees in the 70s. They wanted to get to respectable, so they overpay for an old guy who helped them get to respectable, knowing the back end of the deal wouldn't be good. Of course, there's a cap in the NBA, which makes it different. But one thing I liked about Gordon Hayward on Boston is his passing was excellent in the starting lineup. And so maybe, Bobby, maybe he ages a little bit better than you might think. Like, of course not as a max contract player, but as a useful starter to a team with a lot of young talent. What do you think about that?
He fits a veteran role, and when you kind of, when he becomes probably more of the number 1 or 2 option than 3 or 4 that he was in Boston here. But this is kind of we'll see where this is 3 years from now or even next year. The other thing I didn't like either, they stretched that Batum contract, and they're basically got, and about stretch provision, when you got Noah on your books in New York and Dang on the books in LA, that money just sits there, Max, and they've got $9 million sitting there for the next 3 years.
It's too bad about Batum. Batum, before he got paid and before he went to was so good, and then I don't know, he stopped looking interested to me. That's a shame, because I thought that was a good pickup when they, or at least when Batum was a free agent, when he got his contract, I thought, ooh, that's money well spent. No, it wasn't. Bobby Marks, ladies and gentlemen, ESPN NBA front office insider. Always appreciate you coming on, Bobby.
Developing story on SportsCenter. Washington Wizards general manager Tommy Shepard said today that the franchise has no intentions of trading John Wall. A source confirmed to ESPN that the Wizards had discussed a potential trade for Wall for Russell Westbrook with the Rockets, but here's more of what Shepard had to say today.
There's no plans to trade John. Obviously, it's unfortunate this time of year. I think the bait and tackle shop's wide open for business. There's a lot of people that get excited on the internet or whatnot, but there's no issues with John and I. There's no issues with John and the Wizards. There's no issue with anybody other than we just want to go out and get between the lines, where life makes a little bit more sense right now than it does. So we're getting ready for whatever is ahead of us.
Now, Wall still has 3 years remaining on that lucrative 4-year contract extension he signed back in 2017. But the number 1 overall pick in the 2010 NBA draft missed most of the last 2 seasons after rupturing his Achilles back in 2019. We are now joined by NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, what should this mean moving forward for John Wall and Bradley Beal, who are both set to be reunited on the court for the first time in 2 years?
Yeah, Ashley, and I think that's more the question for the Washington Wizards. Not so much what John Wall wants, but what does Bradley Beal want? Because in Wall's absence, Beal has become the unquestioned franchise player for them, and they're building this organization around him, and they want to keep him long term. And I think both Bradley Beal and Tommy Shepard have really liked what they've seen with John Wall in his rehab. They've seen him. They feel like he's improved his three-point shot. Tommy Shepard says he's seen the explosion back with John Wall. He's been out of the league for a very long time. I think they want to see what they look like together back on the court and go from there.
Okay, well, how about another duo now to the West? How are the Rockets planning on moving forward with James Harden and Russell Westbrook at this point?
Well, they have not engaged on James Harden in trade talk, but Russell Westbrook they have. That's not an easy trade to make, and I think for the Rockets, getting back into training camp and starting the season is probably a more likely scenario than Westbrook even moving. They're going to bring DeMarcus Cousins into training camp. Our Tim McMahon reported, see if they can resurrect his career. He has faced several significant injuries in the last couple of years, and he'll get another opportunity to make that Rockets roster.
All right, well, it was a crazy weekend in free agency, but now I want to know what potential significant moves could still be looming this week with NBA training camps opening in just over a week.
Well, Tuesday is an interesting day to watch. Bogdan Bogdanović's offer sheet with the Atlanta Hawks. The Kings have to make a decision. Are they going to match the offer sheet for the restricted free agent and keep him? Or that 4-year, $72 million deal, do they let him go to Atlanta? And so they've got about another 24 hours before they have to tell the league and tell Atlanta what they're going to do. So they're making that decision. And I think you're going to see some more extensions. There's a lot of extension-eligible players. Brandon Ingram in New Orleans, OG Anunoby in Toronto, Bam Adebayo in Miami. You'll start to see those. And, of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo